everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. I'm happy to be back here down in Florida at our Boca Raton studios. I'm Alan Schimmel. And as we say, some of my Caribbean friends here in Florida, we've got some this and some that for you on the gang today. You're watching Techstrong, gang. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Techstrong, gang here. It's Tuesday. We've got a good potpourri of different stories we want to cover you with today. We're going to talk a little bit about agile. Is it all it's cracked up to be, or is it a hat? Well, we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about what it takes to be a modern CIO today in the age of AI. And lastly, we're going to talk about a study coming out of Stanford about RAG and what may be in the future for you with copilots. But before we jump into that, let me introduce you to our gang members for today. First of all, he is out in Philadelphia attending, I guess it's AWS, not reInvent, Reinforce. It's our CTO and Principal Security Research Analyst, Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitchell.
Good to be here. Wherever I am, it's good to be here.
In Philly. And then joining us back from her summer hiatus from San Angelo, Texas, it's Amanda Razzani, our editor.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Amanda. Good to have you on. And then our special gang member today, he's been on here before, though I'm not sure he's wearing his colors, though. It's our friend Stephen Foskett. Stephen, of course, is the CEO and founder of Tech Field Day, and he's fresh off a Tech Field Day. Hopefully, Stephen, I know he was Cisco Live, but wasn't there another one?
Yeah, we were at both Cisco Live and at Click Connect last week, and we've got Cloud Field Day this week, and we had App Dev Field Day the week before. So it's been pretty busy. But yeah, we divided and conquered. So I went to Click Connect and learned a heck of a lot about data and AI, while Tom Hollingsworth was over at Cisco Live, deep diving into networking and AI, because it's 2024 and everything's about AI.
Absolutely. Speaking about AI, I can tell you that this woman is real, but she knows something about AI. It's our friend from MITRE, Tracy Bannon. Hey, Tracy, welcome.
Hi, I am looking forward to all the topics you guys have been suggesting for today. This is going to be fun.
I hope so. That's what we try to do, and we hope you enjoy it out there. The last person I want you to introduce, not the last person I want to introduce, but the last person I will introduce, or should introduce, is my co-host here in our Boca headquarters. It's our Chief Content Officer, the one and only Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good to have you back.
Absolutely. It's good to be back. I've been on the road, and actually, I leave again tomorrow, actually. But such is life. As Stephen was saying, it's that time of year. So, guys, let's kick it off. We got this What's Wrong with Agile, Mike. I've got some views on this, but I'll let you do the intro.
All right. Well, there's another study, and this is not the first time we've been talking about this issue. It's been around for a long time, but the study says that folks who are building agile applications are somewhere in the neighborhood of 268% more likely to fail. And this conversation has been going on forever, and yet we still have people who are diehard believers and must be getting some value out of it. So let's start with Tracy, though. You've kind of been around this topic for a long time. What's your thoughts about this study, and what are the issues with Agile, and is it just part of the thing, or is there something fundamentally wrong?
Oh, gosh. So there's a lot to unpack there. The study's interesting. I read through it, and it's a small group of participants, 350, but that's not insignificant. Is Agile all it's meant to be? Is it all it's talked up to be? Well, it's like everything else. It depends. A lot of people come at this with a zealotry. They read something, they have this high mindset of what it needs to be, and they forget about all the basics. And I think a lot of what we see is when people become focused, wrapped around the axle of what they think it is, instead of tailoring it to what they need. I think it's where you see a lot of the issues. There's also resistance, tons of resistance that we see. Does everybody fail with Agile? No. Does it belong everywhere? in a purist sense, no. It always needs to be really tailored to what you're trying to accomplish, the people that you have, the culture of your organization, your unique context.
Thoughts? I know you're dying to jump in.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted you to introduce it. This way I don't have to be partial or impartial. So I've got to call bullcrap on this chop job by the guy at the Register. Some nerve even publishing this on there. This is a study by a company whose premise is if you don't put all of your plans beforehand all laid out, you're bound to fail. And so they latch onto one of the manifesto tenements, which is good software over good planning, in essence, is the thing to do, and that is key to agile. But the problem is as usual, they made it as if you don't have any planning at all, you're 264% more likely to fail. That's great. No one does no planning at all. The part of this agile thing about the tenet about good software over good planning, it doesn't mean you don't plan. It just means that you've got to adapt to the time and circumstances and your environment and what's going on.
But that's misunderstanding.
Fake news.
Right, but that's the thing that people don't understand. Let's just go. We're gonna do this agile thing. I wrote something about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, because somebody said to me, "We don't need any architects. We don't need any engineers. We're doing agile," and my brain exploded. Because you do need to make choices. There is planning up front. It just means we don't plan everything up front. So I think that agile for a very long time, has been bastardized. At least the methodology, the written out things that we are supposed to do, it's all supposed to be suggestions on how you should behave. Should you have a conversation instead of having those big documents that we would create and we would redline them and it would take months to get after them and then you'd send me the redline document and I'd study that? Gone. Those need to go away in that, because I can come to you and ask, what are you looking for? What do you think about these things? So there's some goodness there that got totally misunderstood. And yeah, I would agree with you that this study paints it too bleak. But we have been having issues for a while, right? We've been having all kinds of issues for a while because nothing's perfect and you got to keep trying.
But Agile's been around 25 plus years. Mm-hmm. It's not the new kid on the block anymore.
Somebody's using it for something after 25 years.
Yeah, all right, I got to jump in here too. You're telling me it's 2001 and we need our Agile back? Is that where we're at? It took it this long to figure out?
I like that.
No, we need our waterfall back. That's what they're trying to say.
Yeah,
it's 2001, where'd our waterfall go?
All right, let's get started.
I think one of the things... Oh, go ahead.
No, Amanda, go ahead. Let Amanda talk.
As I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking that some of the things that I hear from business leaders and staff and companies is it's more about the over planning during the agile process. There's too many managers managing everything and too many meetings, and it's actually becoming less agile the more they try to be agile.
Well, there's another thing here too, and I'm not going to say that the Register guy was wrong. I'm going to say that is a prevailing idea in the world. Everybody wants to use agile as a punching bag. Everybody wants to say agile is just a bunch of hackers with no planning and no methodology. And maybe some people are like that. Certainly I have met people who claim to be agile developers when in reality they're just lone wolf. I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I know best and you don't know nothing, you project managers. That's not agile. Agile is a methodology. It has principles. It has values. The whole point of agile was supposed to be that you're breaking free from this problematic waterfall mentality. And instead you're approaching tasks in a realistic way and saying there are little achievements. We need to have little goals. We need to have the ability to adapt. I mean, for me, the biggest thing is that you need to welcome change and you need to welcome and embrace the reality as the project evolves and as the development happens. And unfortunately, what's happened over time is agile has become the punching bag that everybody loves to hate because it's the symbol to them of what they hate. It's like politics. Everybody loves to hate the other guy, and Agile's the other guy.
It's just the religious wars of methodologies capped at the same time as the clone wars, by the way. So,
well, I think if we bring it back to basics on this, it's always been, to your point, about the principles and the values that are there, and on pausing every so often and looking at that. Are we aligning to this? And that's what principles are supposed to be. Those are the things that if you're making a decision that are contrary to those principles, you got a problem. But there's also that misunderstanding, and that I like where you went with this, that punching bag of, if something goes wrong, what do I want to blame it on? Well, I'll blame it on that new, and it is still new. It's still new in a lot of places. It's still new. They blame it on that. Oh, it was because we did this. It was because of that. DevOps killed us. Agile killed us. No. What happened was that you didn't take a step back, plan extra time for allowing yourselves to have new workflows, plan extra time for allowing people to adjust to these new ways of doing things. And yes, I say new, but it is there. The principles and the values are the core part of it. I think there are also organizations that dive in immediately and say, we need the most hardened methodology possible. We're going to use SAFe, or we're going to use one of the other very over-documented approaches, or overly documented approaches. And they also get wrapped around the axle of having everything written down and having everything so pre-figured, pre-configured, pre-asserted that they lose the agile mindset. They lose that ability to say, this isn't working so well. We need to pull back. That one pager that we said that was how we were going to do things, we need to make some changes there. So everything is still getting written in concrete, written in stone.
You bring out something really important, Trace, which is a lot of cultures, business cultures, I'm just talking about the organization, not even within IT, are not compatible with doing an agile approach. If you're highly scripted, highly measured, highly planned, disciplined, et cetera, this is what has to be laid out. In that kind of culture, a product manager not knowing when the product's going to be released, which is not going to be that date anyway, it is begging for a date from the software team, cross-functional or whatever, and they get frustrated, right? And so there are organizations where it just won't work because it's not compatible. As much as you want to try and plan and adapt and change, other places it works great. People are very much bought into it and will make it work. So I think it says more about the organization than necessarily just about the people or the process.
You know what, though, guys? People should remember they call it agile. And if you don't know what agile means, go look up the dictionary term, agile. It means you're agile, you're nimble, you're able to adapt and evolve and respond. Hence the word agile. But, but this also, Stephen and Tracy, you hit on it. I'll piggyback on that. It's the same issue, this punching bag thing going on with DevOps now. Because if you think agile wasn't wrapped down tight enough, their heads explode over DevOps, right? Because we don't have a manifesto, and we don't have, that whole kind of, on purpose, by the way. If you ever want to have a great conversation, speak to John Willis or Patrick Dubois or Damon Edwards or any of the, the DevOps folks who got started. They purposely stayed away from doing the manifestos and the dogma of having it so structured out like that. And for people who can't wrap their heads around that, this is nuclear bomb worthy. They're literally their heads explode, and we're seeing that. And that's part of running back to platform engineering, because we'll know what to expect. And I'm not knocking platform engineering. I'm a fan. As Mitchell, I know you are too, and I'll tell you, we're going to be doing something here at Techstrong around platform engineering. We'll announce more in the coming weeks, but it's far from a failure. And when I see clickbait kind of articles and headlines like this, my head explodes. Anyway,
wait, one last thought.
I'm going to give Mike last word here.
So I scratch my head because if you need a 40-page manifesto to understand that failing to plan is planning to fail, God bless you. But I think, great minds have kind of covered this issue before, and it just applies to software.
Okay. And that's the final word. We're going to take a break on the gang here. We'll be back in a minute.
DevOps.com is the #1 online destination for DevOps education and community building. DevOps.com covers all aspects of DevOps, including DevOps best practices and tools, DevOps culture, DevSecOps, business impact, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and more. DevOps.com has the largest collection of original DevOps content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.devops.com to learn more. DevOps.com, where the world meets DevOps.
All right, welcome back. After that spirited conversation about Agile, we decided to take on yet another, well, shall we say, controversial subject these days, but there's a new study out from Deloitte talking about what it takes to be a modern CIO in this digital transformation age. Amanda, this is on digital CXOs, so let's start with you. But what is your take about this conversation? Because I feel like we've been trying to figure out what the perfect CIO should be like for decades now, and is it different in your mind, or is this just kind of the same conversation dressed up in digital transformation talk?
Well, I think, this article is talking about CIOs, but it relates to a lot of positions in the fact that they can't just be in one specific niche and be really good at technology. They need to be good communicators. They need to be good project managers. They need to be understanding the business from the inside out, which is kind of helpful for many roles, not just this particular role. So it's just saying well-rounded and not just being good at technology. That's not enough.
All right. Stephen, you have a lot of gray hair, and I know that means that you've been listening to this conversation for a long, long time. And I can't remember the first time we talked about this. It might have been, I was at Computer World, I think, talking about the divide between IT and the business, and we're still having this conversation. So why are we not making enough progress? Or maybe we are and we just don't realize it.
Well, thanks a lot first for calling me old. I really appreciate that, Mike.
At least
I will
has
say,
hair.
yes, I got a lot of gray hairs here. I've been in IT my whole career, and it has always been very obvious to me what this survey is saying, and I actually agree with this survey, that a good CIO is not about technology. A good CIO is about the business, and CIOs should be focused, as this survey shows, on delivering value to the business, serving as change agents, and basically translating between the technical people and the business people. And from my perspective, in the companies that I've worked for that have had very like good CIOs from a company perspective, those people have come from outside of technology. Many of the best CIOs I know were formerly CFOs and CROs and things like that. And that makes people like me in IT kind of cringe, because we're like, oh, great, here comes Mr. Sport Jacket to tell me which system I should deploy. But when I gave them a chance, and when I listened to them, and when I saw that as a way to get the objectives of IT done, it made a lot of sense. And I think that that's really what I'm kind of reading into. Maybe I'm just bringing my own perspective into this, but I would say that for the techies out there like me, look at that Mr. Sport Jacket from finance and realize that his job is to help you get your job done in an effective way. Because what holds back IT again and again and again is that we try to do technology in a vacuum and we don't focus on what the business wants.
I want to add on to that. There is an imperative for that CIO to be tech savvy. Where the failures happen is when the CIO is tech ignorant, when they are not investing in understanding, right? And that's where the technologists have an imperative to make sure that you're having the conversation, you're feeding them the articles at the right level, right? You're having the conversation at the right level to make sure not just your CIO, but the entire organization is tech savvy. But that CIO, if he's going to partner, he's got to have at least some ideas on what the art of the possible is. Does not need to be a deep diver, but she needs some measure of tech savviness.
Absolutely. Mitchell, I want you to jump in here because apparently I have to talk really slowly for you technical people to understand. But I think what they're saying is that you're unable to communicate your ideas, and yet I work with you every day, and I seem to understand what you're trying to tell me most of the time.
Well, let me write some Python code to interpret what you're telling me, Mike. Having been a CIO at a few companies, I can tell you it's no fun to report to the CFO or to the COO in a company that does not value tech. It sucks. And sometimes it happens that way because technology is not really understood what its role should be or could be in the business, or it's runaway costs. And so it's to get things under control. And that has happened a lot in IT. But I think we've seen a shift technology-wise in general from being a back office function to the business is about technology. How many times have we heard that we are a technology company, or we are a software company, we are an AI company, whatever it is? What that means is every part of the business leverages and is dependent upon delivering this. And I think the role of a CIO, and I can tell you, having to report to the senior levels or being part of the executive team, your role there is to paint a vision as well as connect the dots between the strategy, the business plans, where we want to go, the changes that are happening and are in effect today, but what other contingencies do we need to plan for? And then you've got to kind of steer the ship of what's happening not only in IT, but throughout the entire organization. Because guess what? Everybody thinks they can run IT. That's just kind of because we all work in technology and use it in our everyday lives. And every executive now plays a part of their role is to be a tech executive. Doesn't mean they're tech savvy on everything, maybe not on a lot, but their job is in the boardroom and in the executive suite is how do we leverage technology to our advantage? Because our competitors doing it. And if we don't do it, we're going to get our butts kicked in market. So if I don't understand it, I'm expecting my CIO or my CTO or my CSO to help make sure we understand we've got the right strategy in place that fits with our business, where we're going, and the right investment, and take it from there. Other than that, I don't have a lot to say about this topic.
Well, you do have a lot to say there. That's really awesome. It's no longer a cost center, though. Isn't that a part of the mindset shift? So we have to take it from being IT as a cost center. It's a nasty that we have to do. It's like paying somebody to run cables in the building. No, it's more than that. It's no longer just something that's serving us internally. It's no longer just the people making sure that you have a laptop or you have a desktop that helps you get your things done. It's a critical part of the entire strategy of organizations. Now, there's no organization that's not touched in some way by technology. It's got to be elevated as a key strategic partner at the table.
Well, it just can't become a thing unto itself. I think that's
no, it can't. But I think you guys didn't quite cross the finish line there. It has. In many organizations, IT's moved from a cost center to a profit center. It's more than just helping the business to run. It's turning a profit, right? And when every company is a software company and we rely on our apps to carry the business forward, it's a profit center. But, this highlights, it's a similar conundrum for CISOs as well as other C-levels, as Amanda said. These C-levels, for the most part, stand as a nexus point between talking business to the business itself, right, at the C-level board of directors and through the organization, and then translating that business speak, in the case of the CIO, to IT speak, so that his team understands it in relation to their role and how their roles figure into the larger business goals. And I think the best CIOs do that.
Stephen,
right?
Are you optimistic? Yeah, Stephen, are you optimistic about all this?
Hold on, Mitch, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just, I'm in Philadelphia, and so I kind of have to bring up the example of Comcast and Tony Werner. And
I think you're going to say Ben Franklin.
Well, yeah, that too. Electricity, important stuff. No, I mean, using Comcast as an example, they went from a market where they're entirely dependent upon third parties to create set-top boxes and operating systems and program guides and all the cable technology that we used to watch on. You remember those really crappy program guides we used to have? Well, now, I mean, basically they took the matters into their own hands. They created their own operating system, their own set-top box technology. They became a technology company to the point where they have Comcast Technology Solutions, where they spin this off. They now sell set-top boxes, the Xfinity that we use if you're a Comcast customer. But if you're part of Shaw or any number of other cable companies, they've licensed that and they sell it to other companies. So they took technology, the bull by the horns, and said, we're not going to be beholden to everybody else. They even make their own OEM equipment for security systems in your home that you buy through the Xfinity service. So that's a great example where it wasn't just the CIO. It took the CIO, the CTO, and the leadership of the organization to say, this is important for us to be able to compete in the future, and we're going to make ourselves, not just invest, we're going to make ourselves extremely good at this and competitive in the market. So it's a great example of what you can do to leverage technology as your business, but not just as the CIO or one in the executive suite.
All right, Stephen, let's come to you, because in your travels, and we are on many of the same circuits, but it seems to me I don't run into that many IT people anymore who are completely ignorant about the business, and a lot of the business folks I meet are much savvier about IT. So are we making some progress here, or what's your sense of where we are?
I definitely do think we're making some progress here. We just heard with Comcast, I think probably the ultimate example of this is Amazon. Andy Jassy sees the opportunity to make Amazon into the most fundamental tech company in the modern world. And that was not a foregone conclusion. Look at some of their competitors. It didn't happen by accident. And I think that shows the opportunity. And like you say, I'm seeing more and more people in the IT space who are getting savvy to this. Many of them because they spent years earlier in their career getting burned, working on projects that weren't connected to the business. And they are seeing the opportunity to translate that from IT speak to business speak. And they see that as a career growth opportunity. It absolutely is. That was my career. That's what I did. Also, I think that on the other side, the business is getting more technically savvy because all of society is getting more technically savvy. I was at this Click Connect event, and one of the speakers, an independent third-party, outsider, said you can be good you can be good at AI or bad at business. AI is a meta technology, and I was very struck by that comment enough that I wrote it down because I thought, wow, is this the world that we're living in, where technology is now fundamental to all of business, and AI technology is fundamental to all of business, and therefore everyone from the non-tech side, from the tech side, we all owe it to ourselves to come together and figure out how to use this meta technology to make our businesses good at business in the future. I think that it's converging.
I don't disagree with that.
Wow, drop the mic.
I think the whole reason Digital CXO exists as a site is for everything that Stephen just described. So by all means, come check that out, folks. It's one of our pet projects that we're kind of fond of, but we think that ultimately the audience for IT is going to be everybody.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a break. Second break here on Techstrong Gang. We're going to come back with a study out of Stanford around RAG. Stephen's recently had some exposure to this. I hope he's not contagious, but he's going to tell us all about it. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
All right, we're back and we're talking about this Stanford study that looked at the implications of RAG for improving, or at least making, the hallucinations that we see in Gen AI platforms a little less problematic. And
I saw the hallucinations. I thought this was a Colorado story or something.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Well, maybe we'll get Mitch's opinion in a bit.
I'm seeing things clearer now that I'm not in Colorado.
There you go. But the premise of this study is that, and it's been an ongoing conversation, is that we do have these hallucination issues with LLMs, and the theory is that if we expose them to more data, we'll get less hallucinations. And the study seems to confirm that, but it doesn't say that we can eliminate them. So let's start with Stephen here. But what's your take on what's going on? Because I know you've gone to a couple of conferences where a lot of folks are talking about this kind of issue and what's happening, but is this something we just need to learn to live with, or is it going to get better? What's your sense?
Yeah, I'm thrilled that I was able to go to this Click Connect conference, and I was also able to spend a lot of time with Google and with Amazon talking about exactly this topic. And in fact, on my podcast, Utilizing Tech, we are talking about AI as our focus this season, and RAG has been certainly an improvement, and it has been touted as basically the catch-all, fix-all for the hallucination problem. Ultimately, it is not, and it will not be, and that's what this study shows. This is a very, very sharp study, and I was so pleased to see it in mass, Fortune, in a mass market publication, because on the one hand, it talks about the value of RAG and how RAG can reduce hallucinations, especially in the legal field. But on the other hand, it also points out that that's not the fix-all for this problem. One of the issues so far has been that people are literally talking to an LLM as if it has intelligence. I don't know how you're going to define intelligence, but it doesn't. LLMs, no matter how complicated they are, no matter how good they are, and how many parameters they have, they don't have the same kind of intelligence that humans have. They will not have the same kind of intelligence, and they will not be able to produce hallucination-free, error-free output at any point, full stop. An LLM is a user interface. Mark my words. An LLM is simply a human-computer interaction element. And if you approach it from that perspective, it can be incredibly valuable. We saw that, for example, with Click. They have a new product, Click Answers, that is basically a RAG plus LLM tool. And you can feed it a subset of corporate documents, either structured data or unstructured data, ask it questions in a co-pilot type scenario, exactly like they were talking about in this article, and it will produce results that are constrained by the data that you feed it. So we actually tested it last week in person, and we were asking it nonsensical questions, and it refused to answer those questions. We asked it smart questions based on the data set that it had, and it answered those questions in a convincing manner. And you could say, well, full stop, they've solved the problem. But the trouble is that they haven't, because ultimately RAG gets you most of the way there, because it's not going to hallucinate something completely nuts. But it is still not a person capable of reasoning. And so in the example here for this article, if you connected an LLM to LexisNexis and asked it questions about legal issues and said you can only get information from this document set, you would get much better answers than just asking it without any kind of data sources for legal citations, because it's just going to make stuff up in that case. With RAG, it's not going to make stuff up. But you can't then go to the next point, which is to say that it's going to be 100% correct, because it absolutely is not. It's not going to give you the best citation. It's not going to give you a complete citation, and it's not going to give you a full understanding of the legal issues, because that's what people are for.
So I want to jump on this and give an alternate point of view. Agree with you from a RAG perspective, the value that it can bring. It can help to reduce hallucinations. But there's a mindset that we have to take as well, which I think might pique your interest. Think of hallucinations as a feature and not a bug. So if we're trying to get to absolute perfection when we're generating code on behalf of the human, okay, there's a problem. We're generating the legal case on behalf of the human. We're going to see problems because it's math. under the covers, that large language model is math. So if you leverage it, though, in different ways, think of those hallucinations as creative muse. It actually can be really, really insightful. Ideation and brainstorming, we're leveraging it with teams right now where we have people working on requirements and they're taking in user stories, they're taking transactions or transcripts from conversations that they're having, and it actually can be like a muse. Same thing when we're talking about test plans and having people really think outside the box. It can be fantastic for ideation. Experimentation, some great things there as a conversation agent, but all of it is as you're talking to that creative person, that that friend that you talk to who has all these whack-a-mole ideas. Some of them are good and some of them are not so good. So there are different places and reasons and ways. Legal, what we're talking about with LexisNexis, yeah, we got to get things right. And RAG will only get us part of the way there. It is actually constraining the creativity, the mathematical creativity of the language model in order to help us to get more reliable outcomes. So just an alternate point of view to really think about, guys.
Yeah, to Tracy's point, I'd love to get your opinion on this because I think we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but humans tell me things convincingly that are wrong all the time. And I don't call them up and accuse them of hallucinating. I just call them up and say,
Oh, I do.
I more call them up and go, hey, bonehead, that wasn't true. And when
No, I just say, are you on drugs? Are you hallucinating? Yeah, no, I've said it before. But yeah, I understand the point you're making.
Right. So is the machine just one more
So
source?
should we be kinder to our machines and
could
say,
be.
Mr. AI, are you not feeling well today?
Yes, exactly. Because you know what? All
Be
these
kind
things.
to your AI week.
We don't-
Someone will make a holiday over this.
We don't trust all the humans we deal with, so why should we trust all the machines we deal with? What makes you think the machine's going to be any better one way or the other?
Because, well, if the machine's knowledge is based upon what the human knowledge is, and the human knowledge is flawed, well, of course, the machine knowledge is flawed. That makes sense. But I think the whole point around AI is we want them to be smarter than us, better than us, not make mistakes. We've got to be, if it's not reliable, it's not useful. Well, we might as well just let humans do it.
Isn't that an unrealistic expectation, though?
Yeah,
Isn't that what
I'm
you're
not saying
Alan?
it's not. It's an unrealistic expectation today. But I think the expectation is going forward 5 years, 10 years, whenever, and we get general intelligence and all these other things we heard them bandy about, is that you won't have the hallucinations. Or are we destined to always have HAL 9000?
Well, the
Open
problem
the
is
pod
we're
bay
never
doors.
going to have that. I'm sorry. We are never going to achieve artificial general intelligence that matches human intelligence in a similar way. I
exceed.
think we can get super intelligent AI, but it will never be like human intelligence, in my opinion. And furthermore, to Tracy's point, I love that insight. It is a muse. The problem is people keep treating LLMs not as the middle of the process, but as the end of the process. They keep treating LLMs as the answer machine, not the question machine. And it's right there in the names. I mean, you got Google putting it on the answers. Google Answers. It's the answer. It's not the answer. It is an idea. It is a muse, as you said. I love that term. It is part of the process. It is valuable, but it is not the end.
And it's going to vary by each one of the. I'm sorry, Mitch, to step on you. Just to add to that, and then I'll pipe down. It all comes back to context, as we've been talking about many, many different topics. How am I using it? What's my intentionality for this particular use case, for this particular part of software or the domain that you're working in marketing? Sometimes it can be closer to that end stage. It can be really, really far towards the end of that workflow, right, Stephen? But it is not always at the tail end. So we've got to figure it out. What's my risk if it's wrong? That's what we need to be asking is, in this case, what's my risk if this is wrong? And what do I need to do to protect against that? Do I need more humans in the loop? Do I need to add RAG? There are other techniques that are coming out and growing, right? Is it one of those other techniques? It depends on the use case. It really, really does.
I think
Mitch,
we have a paradox that we're faced with, which is we chase the rabbit of we need more data that will make our LLMs accurate. Well, those large LLMs are fed massive amounts of data. We know that that data has a lot of errors and inaccuracies, just absolutely wrong information in it. And at the same, so we're chasing the rabbit of how many NPUs and cycles processing do we need to train those models? How much data? Can we just feed it more data? But at some point, you have to look at the data going in, the old garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. Now, we call that a solution or a hallucination instead of garbage out. So if you want more accurate responses out of AI, you either have to invest in algorithms can discern between accurate and inaccurate information. Maybe it's a certain number of sources that it can validate to determine whether this is a more probabilistically, math-wise, a more accurate answer than another. But I think we still have to look at the quality of the data going in because we're just sucking things off the internet. I think the internet's 100% right last time I checked it. So I think it's all about the data. It doesn't matter how much processing or algorithms we apply to it. If we're still giving it crap data, we're going to get crap answers back. That's my curmudgeon, my bizarre curmudgeon answer.
I agree.
Amanda, let me get Amanda in here for a second.
It's not all about the data. It's about the data and the type of intelligence and the expectations we're placing on these systems.
Yep, I would agree.
Amanda?
Found in agreement.
Let me get Amanda in here for a second and ask her this question, right? What if the output is something that doesn't align with my core beliefs? So I may believe that the world is flat and therefore, the machine is hallucinating when it tells me the opposite. And so how will we align our personal truths with
pretty much how our country runs today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the problem we're talking about is the AI is only going to give us what we give it. It's only as good as we are. So our biases are part of the AI, and we're going to read into it what we want, just like we do with everything else.
Well, can I bring up something that maybe this will be a future conversation that we have? I was just reading about OpenAI is looking for more data sources. So they've approached hand-selected areas, hand-selected media, hand-selected news organizations, and they're entering into contracts with them. But they've also said that they won't be entering into conversations with what they consider to be fringe or not common points of view. Left, right, doesn't matter. What happens then to that LLM if we're censoring the information that goes in, censoring the different points of view? Are we going to lose creativity? Are we going to homogenize over time? Because we said, we're just going to get that from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and Fortune magazine. Those are our three big additional data sources to help round this out. So
you're saying that if I restrict information to my generally intelligent LLM, I'm violating its rights. That's what you're telling me.
I think that's an interesting way to put it. Amanda, you've got something to say on this.
Or it's a filter bubble.
Yes. I think it comes down to, that's when we talk about the more data there is. I think the more and more data from all sides and points of view, the more accurate it's going to become as it can filter through all points of view.
Only if it learns to filter through. People can't filter through all the data that we get here on social media and everything else. I don't know how we can expect our AIs to. But guys, whether this is a hallucination or not, we've got to pull the plug on this episode of Techstrong Gang. Mitchell, enjoy.
I'm just checking to make sure you're actually a person.
Well, it goes right through, right? Mitchell, enjoy AWS, reinforce. Stephen, great to have you on. We hope to have you on here soon. What's your next Tech Field Day, by the way? I think it was Cloud, you said?
Cloud Field Day. It's actually Wednesday. And in fact,
tomorrow,
if you're interested in this topic, on Thursday, we've got Google Cloud talking AI all day Thursday on Techstrong TV, I believe.
It'll be on. Absolutely. Thank you. Tracy and Amanda, we'll speak to you soon. Keep up the great work. Mike, great job today. We will be back, I guess, on Thursday with a fresh Techstrong Gang. Reminder, starting, I think it's June 18th or 17th, we go 5 days a week on the gang. Exciting stuff. Until then, though, this is Alan Schimmel for Techstrong. Have a great day, everyone.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.